a time-obsessed killer, a game show icon, a shitty 80s band, and a track team that's running for their lives. Mix it all together and you get Graduation Day. We watched it, so you don't have to, so you know what that means.
Horror, so bad it's scary. Splitting up is never okay. Plot, who needs it? Don't turn on the lights. Cars don't ever start, but that's alright. Running upstairs instead of out the door. Good acting, what do we need that for? Horrible horror, so bad it's scary. Enjoy the show, but not really.
Greetings, everybody. I am Marshall Hampton, the host of Horrible Horror, the podcast where we watch the worst of the worst movies. The horror movies so bad, they're scary. With me today is a new co-host. Unfortunately, Aaron could not be here. He had wedding and work obligations, but I got a super guest today, a good friend of mine. You may know him from many things, Mr. Justin Willman. Justin, how are you doing today?
Hi, Marshall.
Hi, Justin.
Welcome to my parents' living room.
Yes, we are recording live from Justin's parents' living room, which is a gorgeous house, but nobody listening to this can see this.
You can hear the echo a little bit, but it is lovely. I didn't grow up in this house, but now you know how after you move away, or then they move to a different house, and then it's their home, but it never feels like your home.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I get that.
This is that place.
This is that place.
But yeah, I live in LA, and I just happen to be in St. Louis this weekend, and we've been planning to sit down and do this podcast.
Yes. You actually, by the time this actually gets posted, it'll be over, but
Right.
you're actually in town to perform at the pageant.
The
here in St.
pageant,
Louis.
yeah, tomorrow night.
Yeah,
Very
good
excited.
venue.
It's a cool venue.
It's a great venue.
Last time I was here, it was, I didn't have a huge following, so ticket sales were kind of weak. So it's a venue that you need a lot of people. This year, we've actually done really well with tickets, but before it's like you can feel when it's empty at the pageant.
Yeah,
but tomorrow night, I think it'll feel pretty packed,
Awesome.
so that'll be nice.
Now, I just, again, nobody else can see this, but one thing I noticed that's different about you since last time I saw you is now you have this little metal circle around your finger now.
Now this is, so I'm not married yet. I get married in 3 weeks.
Okay, I was going to ask. I wasn't sure if the wedding was.
Yeah, but so my grandfather gave me, my grandmother gave me my late grandfather's wedding ring. And
wow.
it has their engraved date in here of 1943.
Oh.
So my grandfather wore this ring while piloting bombers over in World War II.
That's
and
crazy. That's
flying
awesome.
Delta planes all over the world.
I didn't know. So I mean, your father.
This is my dad. Yes, this is my
I didn't
dad's
realize your
dad.
grandfather.
Yeah,
was
ran
also a pilot.
in
So,
the
like,
family.
runs in the family.
Yeah, and I'm the
Did
one
not
who
know
just ruined it. I ruined the flying tradition. But yeah, my grandfather was wearing this ring when he and my grandma conceived my father, which is something I don't want to ever think about. That's why I'll put the ring back on. But I've never worn a ring ever, so I decided to get it resized and just start wearing it to get comfortable with it.
Yeah, because if you don't wear it for a while, it gets a little. It feels
weird.
at
And
first.
as a magician, I use my hands, and I've just always liked to not have a watch or ring. But I feel like
Does it get in the way of any of your tricks?
I don't think it gets in the way. I've just
Or
always illusions, Michael. It just always. I'm just gonna have to get used to it.
All right. So here's the deal. Today's movie is called Graduation Day. Now, we had a little mix-up, which is going to be interesting and kind of funny. There happens to be more than one horror movie called Graduation Day. I watched the 1981 version. Justin happened to watch
The 2015 version,
So,
which is an honest mistake. When Marshall says, "Hey, the movie we're watching is Graduation Day. It's on Amazon."
Yeah.
So I'm like, "Okay, let me find it." And then, it must be the most recent one. Otherwise, he would have specified.
yeah.
But all he said was the title.
Yeah,
So
I don't take
watched.
full blame for that. I did not realize there was a 2015 version.
I watched a completely different, also horrible movie.
Well, at least it's horrible, so that's good.
Yeah.
It's right in the ballpark.
It is. So we're talking about a movie with the same title, but a completely different movie.
Yeah.
I have not seen your movie.
I have not seen
You've
your
not
movie.
seen my movie.
So this is going to be really interesting. We're going to kind of just back and forth and kind of, I guess,
Break the mold
break
of this
the mold
podcast.
and see what happens.
But you're 17 episodes in. It's okay. It's time to shake it up if you want to.
Yeah, this is episode 17. And should mention this is also week 4 of our back to school month long special. We have one more week to wrap it up. So,
Nice.
yeah.
And they're all school
They're all
related
high
movies.
school. We did a college one last week. But yeah, all school.
Cool.
High school, college related.
Well, luckily mine was also high school related.
Yeah, it's good.
Graduation day.
It would be really bad if it was like kindergarten graduation or something.
I would have loved it if I watched this movie. If it wasn't even a horror movie. If I just watched some like rom-com. And I'm like, man, Marshall, he misdescribed his podcast. I don't know what he's talking about, but I'll watch it.
Got like Katherine Heigl.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So anyway, and I apologize in advance if my dad's talking loud up on the third floor. That just might be just an added bonus for our listeners to listen in. Yeah.
So like I said, mine was done in 1981, and I have something I bet yours doesn't. I have a really, really shitty 1980s band and a game show legend, an icon in my movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine does not.
Aha. See, mine has Miss Vanna White. Yes, people, you heard that correctly. Vanna White of Wheel of Fortune fame is in this movie.
I'm going to have to find a picture, a freeze frame of her, just to see how good she looked in 81.
It's like her first movie or like really any kind of job, really. It's way before Wheel of Fortune. This is like her thing. So
this is pre-Wheel, huh?
Yeah, this is
I guess
pre-Wheel.
it is. I guess you're right. And did she look good?
She definitely looks like Vanna White. But yeah,
Vanna
for
White.
1981, she's...
Graduation day.
She towers over the other girls in this movie. I'll say that.
Really?
There's a scene with her and two other girls, and she looks like an Amazon compared to her.
Oh, wow.
compared
Yeah,
to
wow. Wait, is this her here or is this her here?
From what I can see, none of those. Oh, that picture with the two girls huddling right there.
Right here?
That's them.
Oh, that's her on the right.
That's her on the right. Yep.
Got it. All right.
She's very leggy in this movie.
Yeah, she can turn my vowels. Anytime.
Love it. So mine takes place in high school where basically this girl dies in the opening shots of the movie. It's a track meet, and she running the race, and everybody's going crazy and cheering for her. And this girl looks like she's never run before in her life. Mm-hmm. It's the most awkward running I've ever seen. And she crosses the finish line, winning the race, and then she throws her hands up, screams, and collapses dead. And you never know why. You
never?
I think near the very end they explain something about a blood clot. But again, it makes no sense given the way
Drop
she
dead in the middle of a track meet.
In middle of track meet after winning a race.
Wow.
And that sparks the whole...
She won the race, but she did not look like a runner.
No.
Okay.
She looks like she was like constipated and in lots and lots of pain trying to run this race. Her face.
So this movie did not even start off on a good foot.
No.
Because you're supposed to hook people in the first few minutes.
No. The music is amazingly awesome though. Like it's bad, but
really
good. Yeah,
it's any songs that we would know from the 80s?
No, nothing like actual well-known song. That's all like stuff for the movie. But it's so like bad but it's in its 80s glory. It's wonderful.
Wow, I was born in 1980. Were you 80 as well?
I was 80.
Okay, so we were both babies.
Yep, 1980s, babies of the 80s. So let's go into what's the premise of your movie here?
So my movie is about a group of high school seniors, kind of leading up to their graduation. It starts with, and it's also they describe this as a found footage movie. So here's how the movie starts. Actually, It starts with this kid kneeling on the ground with a handgun. His character's name is I'm going to make sure I pull it up so I can describe it correctly. This character's name is, well, I'll find it in a second. But he's got a handgun and he's holding it to his head. You don't know why. And then, classic, it says 9 months earlier. All right, so you're hooked. At some point this kid, for some reason, is about to kill himself. You don't know why. Duncan's his name. And then it kind of cuts this crazy, it's like modern high school times. I think they're class of 2013. And they're prepping to throw some big rager party at Duncan's house.
Rager.
And there's like the jock dude, and then their jock black friend, and then the hot girls who are kind of just like bitchy and just.
So you have at least one black person in your movie.
There's one, yeah.
Mine has 0.
Really?
Yeah, 0.
It's just very kind of cliche high school, but it's all shown through their little portable handy cams that they're shooting themselves all the time.
GoPro probably.
Yeah, not even like it was weird. It's supposed to be
even?
2013, but they're like little mini DV cameras that no one's used for 10 years. So that's how the movie starts, and it's just kind of feels very cliche and hacky. And the only thing that's hooked you in is that you know that he's going to end up on his knees about to shoot himself in the head 9 months later.
Okay.
And then it takes a while to get into some action. You want me to keep going, or do we come?
Yeah, let's circle around because I would say mine's kind of the same way. Like after the opening scene, the girl dies. You're introduced to Anne, who is the sister of the girl who dies in the track meet, and she's coming back she's in the Navy, and she's hitchhiking home. Again, and Anne's supposed to be kind of like the main character, but again, like you said, it takes a while for anything else to happen. And Anne at one point like disappears for like a good 20 to 30 minutes of this movie. The main character is just gone. So it's like it's hard to argue or even say that she's really the main character when she just disappears for so much of the
So
movie.
they establish her as like, this is the person you're supposed to care about, and then she's gone for a half hour.
Yeah, pretty much.
Weird.
You can almost argue that the coach, the coach of this movie is the shop teacher, the track coach, and apparently the gymnastics coach too. So he wears many hats, but he's almost more of the main character than.
And they're high school students?
Yeah, they're high school students.
Got it.
And this track team is also apparently they've merged gymnastics into track. I'm guessing because, like I said, the gymnastic team has one person on it. One girl is on the gymnastics team of this high school.
Interesting.
Which in the long run is kind of because I went to public school and I didn't know about a lot of the richer, more private schools in the St. Louis area. But like we didn't have a gymnastics team in high school. I'm sure some do, but we didn't have gymnastics at high school. So
interesting.
But anyway, so yeah, we find out she's in the Navy, and so you think she's supposed to be like this tough girl, like basic training, military lifestyle. But it comes back like there's a scene there at the end where she's running, and again, she looks like she's never run more than 20 feet before. It's awful, and
they couldn't even get a stunt double in just to.
Yeah, it's really bad, and her we'll say hand-to-hand combat skills are really lacking for military. It's awful when she does have to fight at the end of the movie. It's really, really bad. The coach is probably the more entertaining character of the whole movie. He's just.
Who plays the coach?
Our coach is played by Christopher George. Now, he's probably not a household name, but he's definitely somebody like who was in a lot of movies in the 70s and 80s. I actually had to have help typing up my notes for this movie because, as you see, I had surgery on my hand.
And you're right-handed.
I'm right-handed, so I actually had my mother. Shout out to Judy Hampton. Thanks, Mom.
Judy.
Help me with notes, and she's watching me. Was like, "Oh, I've seen that guy. Who's it?" So, our parents know who this guy is. So he's a guy who's known. Just
interesting.
Yeah.
But aside from that, it looks like Vanna's like the only name that people still recognize, which never bodes well for a movie when the most notable actor is Vanna White.
My mom also knows Patch McKenzie, who plays Anne, the sister, who disappears. Now, Patch is probably the one who's got the most, next to Vanna White, of course. She has 42 acting credits to her name from the years 1973 to the year 2000. So she's done stuff, but just nothing not anything really big.
Got it.
And the only other name, and this is for diehard horror movie fans and lovers of B movies, Linnea Quigley is in this movie, and she has 136 credits, mostly B movie horror movies. She really got claim to fame. Made big was The Return of the Living Dead in the 80s. That was a big cult hit, and from there she kind of skyrocketed into just kind of like the future, like Jamie Lee Curtis or Daniel Harris of the 80s, just the kind of scream queen, but just for B movies.
She looks lovely in 81 here, looking at her picture.
So those are kind of like the 4 main people. Everybody else in this cast is you never hear, they don't go on.
In fact, Linnea Quigley even has movies from 2015 in post-production, Terror Tunes and Hunters.
Yes, a more horror movie. She's a big horror convention person. She does a lot the horror convention circuit.
Got it.
So yeah, she's got a following.
People like to see her scared.
Yes.
And there's something to be said for that,
It's a talent.
They like to see her uncomfortable and squirming. In my movie here, and I mean, it's so weird that I'm calling it my movie.
Yes, it is yours. You own it now.
I was actually kind of at times, I was like, let me just skip a little through this part because Marshall will help explain to me what happens here. And now I have the onus of remembering everything. They throw this big crazy party at his house, and it's like a crazy rager, 300 high school students, long party music dance scene, just getting drunk. And then they all get into a truck, not all of them, but like a group of 12 of them get into a truck to drive to the coast in Malibu and jump off of a cliff into the water. And everyone jumps in, and then there's one girl in the end who's like, I don't want to do it. No, I'm scared. I can't swim. And the jock convinces this dude, Duncan, be like, hey, push her in. You should push her in. It'll be hilarious. Seriously, push her in. So he pushes her in, and then she's gone. And then 5 minutes later, they find her body, and she's not breathing. and she's dead all of a sudden. No one tries to administer CPR. No one calls the cops. She's dead, and then they all agree to not talk about this and hide her body.
So it kind of sounds like just the beginning of like I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah.
It's very similar. Like, oh, we're
So
gonna
everyone
take
has
an
this
oath.
pact, exactly. But the what's weird early on is that you're like, okay, like the fact that they wouldn't call the cops, like nobody killed her. He pushed her in the water, but it's like it was an innocent mistake. It doesn't make sense how she drowned. She was never gasping for air. It didn't say that she like hit her head or something. It was just very weird. It's very suspicious. And now that I finally got to the end, it explains why.
Okay.
I could get to that if you want.
Like I said, we don't necessarily have to go in order.
Okay.
Since this is all, we're off the cuff here today.
We're off the
anyway.
cuff, man.
So
We're doing it.
If you just want to go into it, we'll say spoiler alerts. Now we cover, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So
Say what you
spoiler
wanna say.
alert. What happens is, and then they all agree to hide this girl's body and never speak of this again. And then it cuts to their graduation, their high school graduation, and they're all happy. Everyone's great. Maybe it's like 6 months later. They're all happy. And then they all get a text to meet back at dude's house, and they don't know who sent the text. And then all of a sudden, there's a knock on the door. They open the door, and there's a DVD on the doorstop. And they're like, what is this? So they pop it in, and it's someone who was recording them at graduation. And they're like, who was recording this? Did you edit this already? And then it cuts to a video of them putting the body in the trunk.
Oh,
So somebody knows. And then it says, if you don't tell, I will. Okay?
This is totally like I Know What You Did Last Summer.
It totally is.
Just with handy cam.
Exactly. And also kind of like Unfriended, that movie that just came out that I've seen that you haven't.
Yeah, I haven't seen
very
it yet,
similar,
but-
very
okay.
similar thing where everyone has a secret and, if you guys don't come clean, I'm going to kill you guys. And so then what happens is some mysterious person starts terrorizing each of them one by one, and they're kind of Skyping each other. And they don't call the cops because if they call the cops, then they're going to find out that this dude killed this girl back in the day, and everything's going to come crashing down. So it's just that classic thing where it's like, you guys are like, someone's after you. You're not calling the police. This
Yeah.
makes no sense.
Of course, that's the biggest thing. Like,
Yeah.
The logic holes are just what make these movies so.
They start
awesome.
suspecting that it was the girl who they killed's brother, who knows, and there's just all these creepy characters. Anyway, what ends up happening is this guy ends up seeing all of his friends get killed off one by one via Skype.
Oh, yes.
And then he feels so guilty that he's now in the parking lot, and you see him with the handgun, and I think he's going to kill himself because of the guilt that his this whole secret caused. And then all of his friends run out and say, surprise, and then gunshot. Okay? And then you're like, wait, what the
shitty
fuck are you
friends.
talking
These are
about?
awful friends.
And then the credits roll, and then it says 20 minutes earlier, and it's all of them alive, including the girl who apparently died on the beach, saying like, guys, this was the best senior prank ever. He's going to just lose his shit. He's going to lose his shit. And, of course, classic Romeo and Juliet tragedy, whatever. He shoots himself in the head right after they say surprise. And joke's on them.
Wow.
So
Awful friends.
honestly, the movie was really crappy and had tons of holes until the end where you realize, okay, all right. I guess that works, but
That sounds a lot like.
kind of a cop out.
It's very similar to like the movies like back in the days like April Fool's Day. It was very similar where every death in the movie, every kill, it turns out at the end it was all fake. It was April Fool's Day prank, so nothing mattered. But let's just so because we have stuff at the end of the podcast where we talk about our kills. Let's go through some of the. Well, but I guess before we'll start talking comparing kills because that's it's a horror movie. We got to compare kills.
Got to compare kills.
A little more background information on my graduation day. Like I said, so where I left off was the girl drops dead after the track meeting, and her sister comes in for what I thought was the funeral, but apparently it's not. She doesn't even come in for the funeral. She comes in for her sister's graduation because they're going to present some kind of like trophy or like.
And her sister was the one who dropped dead?
Yeah. So the older sister comes back for her younger sister's graduation because they're going to present her some kind of trophy or award to the dead sister, like, in honor of her or something like that. So which is weird. Like, you probably think, shouldn't you have come in for like, the funeral, not so much like the graduation. But so she comes in, and then this is where all this stuff starts happening. Now, the killer starts picking off all the kids that were part of the track team. So
you can just mark the spot. I'm gonna.
So yeah, as I was saying, so the killer starts picking off all the former members of the members of track meets. to try to get revenge.
Get revenge on this girl dying.
Yeah, which really.
And do we know who the killer is up top?
No, you don't know who the killer is. This movie plays out as one of those, like who did it? Who's the killer? And then tries to set us up like everybody's a possible killer because the only time you ever see the killer is you see him. Always see the killer wearing gray sweats, like gray sweatsuit, sweatpants, black gloves, and he's always carrying a stopwatch. Because they make a big deal of the stopwatch because at the beginning scene, the coach who's yelling at Laura to come on, win the race, go push her. He's got a stopwatch. He's timing the race.
Classic.
So, and he stops at 30 seconds. He's always 30 seconds. Laura, you got 30 seconds. That's the big thing that comes back. So this killer.
But the killer's not the coach.
They set it. They try to set it up like it's the coach the whole time. But they also they show when Anne's unpacking. She's got gray sweats and black gloves. There's a scene where the principal opens up drawers.
So a lot of little
and
misleaders.
He's got a pocket watch and a bunch of knives. So everybody's got all these things. But they try very, very hard to make it look like
just like Scream, where everyone has that same mask eventually, It's,
such like 2, Scream, 3, 4.
Exactly.
Yeah. So basically, like I said, we always spoil it. The killer turns out to be the dead girl's boyfriend, who was also on the track team. But he goes crazy because he's like, we were gonna get married right after graduation.
And does he think someone killed her?
He blames the coach and the entire track team
for
her
pushing her too hard.
Yeah, that's exactly what he says. Like, you pushed her too hard, you made her work too hard, and she died. And then everybody on the track team was cheering her on and pushing her and egging her to do better, which is just good. That's good teammates and good coaching. I mean, you want people to do better, but.
He really should blame her poor diet.
Yeah, exactly. Because they say she dies of a blood clot, which, I can have it, but the way it happened in the movie is fine. They obviously don't have their facts straight.
Their medical facts.
Which is why I wish Aaron was here, because he's always our medical expert on this stuff. So he starts going around picking everybody off and marks off their picture with red lipstick. He kills each person.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and there's a picture.
Red lipstick. Is the red lipstick supposed to distract you that it's a woman, maybe, or
maybe? There's a lot of things that they said they try to distract you with, but poorly. But no, he just has. There's a picture, a black and white picture of the entire track team, like you would see in the yearbook or something like that, and he just putting a red X through each person's face as he kills them all.
Got it. Classic.
Yeah, exactly. So these being horror movies, you can't talk about horror without talking about the kills, the death scenes. That's what makes these movies so great. So I've already talked about Laura drops dead for no reason. She doesn't really count. But what were some of the death scenes? What do you got? What were some of the more?
Well, like I said, that the first death is this girl getting pushed off of a little bit of a cliff that everyone just jumped off of fine into the ocean. This girl gets pushed off of and all of a sudden dies instantly. So weird death. You don't understand. She said that she couldn't swim, but you don't see her drowning. So maybe she fell and broke her neck. It's very unclear. So that's the first death scene. And then that's all you see for a while. Then this guy starts terrorizing them. But it's just kind of classic just horror drama. You don't see it as much. There's a girl under the bed Skyping and you see the footsteps come around, And he's like, get out of there. First off, if someone's chasing you, you're not going to have your Skype on with the audio.
That's why I've seen other movies kind of like they've done or like the computer, like the face-to-face, Skype, FaceTime, whatever those things are.
Live in the moment, people. Get off your phone. Come on.
Exactly.
Like, especially if you're about to die. You don't need to be FaceTiming. And then, like, so one of the kills that in the end you realize was all fake kills.
Right.
In the end you realize that there were no kills at all except for the suicide in the end, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But the kills were very vague. You didn't understand, like, you see a girl get. They're all in the front yard, and they're trying to save this girl because they know the killer's in her house. And then you see the killer, all in black. You see this girl get shoved up against the window and then just go limp. And you're like, okay, I didn't hear a gun. Maybe he stabbed her, but I don't see a knife. Weird.
Yeah.
So it's all these very weird, vague kills that you don't even know how they're dying.
Those are the worst.
They're just dying.
I hate those.
Yeah.
Stop being lazy, filmmakers. Come on, this is a horror movie.
Well, the problem here is that, in the end, you realize, okay, I guess they weren't kills. So does the ends justify the means? I don't know. I'd be surprised if a lot of people even finish this movie to realize what the whole point was.
It's that bad.
It's that bad. And I don't think that's good. I think the movie has to hold its own until the twist.
Right. And I agree with that one, for sure. Yeah, I have some of the kills. I will say, I wouldn't have thought it possible until hearing what you guys say, but are actually creative then compared to what you had to deal with. Some were basic, knives, throat cutting or stabbing or some beheading, but we had a few unique weapons. We had fencing rapier deaths. A girl gets stabbed through the neck with a fencing sword.
Wow, which is difficult because they have a little bead on the end, right?
I had that in my notes, but since we talk about different movies, I can't talk about everything. But yes, that was my biggest thing, is because
did it go through her neck effortlessly?
Yes, they're like it's like. And
so maybe they removed the safety.
But I thought they were like built on I didn't think they were removable. But
yeah,
they're supposed to be.
They give these to children.
Yeah, there's supposed to be a little round ball on the end of the fence sword. They're not sharp. They're safety. But this one, nope, just right through her neck.
Something right, yeah. Interesting.
The other one, we had a decapitation by garden shears, like Bruce the Barber Beefcake style.
Really?
Yeah.
One slice?
Yeah, just one
What?
chop of it.
That's highly unlikely.
Right through the neck.
Because you couldn't take down a tree branch with one slice. You have to hack at that thing for a while. And a spine does take, I think, a lot of gnawing at with some shears.
Let's see. What's the other interesting? The other one, it was the football sword. Now, this one was kind of unique. And it has problems because, one, it's basically the rapier shoved through a football end to end from tip to tip.
Rapier is what they call the fencing sword?
Yeah, that's
okay. Got
basically.
it. Was it a rapist with a rapier? A racist rapier? A racist rapist with a rapier?
No, unfortunately. Okay. And then they throw the football like perfect spiral with the sword coming out of it into a guy's stomach.
Oh, wow.
So that one was kind of unique.
That's a good one.
For the fact, I don't know how the football would still
I can visualize it.
Air in it being punctured with
good
a sword.
Point.
But
I don't really play sports. I buy it.
But you buy it.
I buy it.
And then the other one, I guess probably one of the other creative one, is a pole vaulter on the track team. He's practicing. Again, why these people are still doing track team meets? Because it's graduation day, so all this stuff is over anyway. It doesn't make any sense. So he's running with the pole.
Training for next season.
Yeah, there you go, or maybe for college. And he's running down, the lane or the track for the pole vault, sticks the pole vault into the little groove, launches over the top, and you hear him scream. And the camera pans over, and he's been impaled. The killer put all sorts of spikes on
the pads,
on the fall pad, the landing mask. And so he's just got all these spikes sticking up through, just completely impaled. So that one was kind of creative, except for the lot. Again, I looked like you can't. I would think if you're running directly towards the mat,
you're going to see these
the giant spikes sticking out of them and not launch yourself over. But
interesting.
Still, that was one of the more creative ones of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the coach, who again, there's a big scene between the killer and the coach when the coach ends up getting shot by a cop. So he is mistaken. Everybody thinks the coach is a killer. He gets shot by a cop, and the killer goes free.
Why does the coach get shot by a cop?
Because at this point, so many people have been killed that the cops have come in to investigate the murders of all the kids missing. And
they got it.
And then people are saying, "Oh, the coach is angry," and he just gets fired at the same time. And everybody thinks he's the killer, and they're investigating. And then the real killer, because the one of the bodies in horror movies, they always reveal the bodies always show up in the end.
The bodies.
The bodies.
Yep.
So Vanna White and one of the other girls finds the body of the dead gymnast who gets stabbed to the neck with a sword, falls out of a locker. Huh. The coach comes in and he's like, and he picks up the sword. And he's like, and the girls think he's the killer. And they run out screaming. So
I see.
And then the real killer comes in.
They're running from him. He's holding a sword. The cop shoots him because they think he's...
The real killer comes in and they tussle because the killer wants to kill the coach because he blames her for Laura's death, but he can blame, nobody knows that yet. So they're fighting, and then the coach runs off, and eventually the cop's like, "Hey, coach!" The coach's name is George Michaels, by the way.
Seriously?
Yeah, Coach George Michaels. Just want to throw that out there.
George Michaels.
And the cop basically shoots him.
I get it. This was before Wham.
This is 81, so this is before Wham and George Michael.
Yeah, interesting.
And then the killer gets killed basically on the pole vaulter. That body comes back. He's found hanging in the door, like nailed to a door of a tool shed, and he gets during a fight that the killer and Ann have. Kevin, the killer, gets knocked into the spikes that are still sticking out of the dead pole vaulter, impaling himself on him.
That's how the killer dies.
That's how the killer dies.
He basically killed himself because the spikes that he set up.
Yeah, we're still
later.
Yeah,
got it.
So those are the more interesting kills. We'll come back to those. We'll come back to those later. Moving on, I guess. Was it really any other thing of note about the kills in your movie? I mean, they were just.
I mean, what's sad is that you realize that in the end they were all mock kills. Let me try to think what else of I got to say there was the party scene here. They had to in a way try to capture a modern high school party scene with music that sounds like music. They couldn't afford actual pop music, so it was kind of like all like hip hop that made it sound like Drake or whatever. The party scene was pretty good. The girl, some beautiful girls. It was like definitely unlike any party that I ever went to in high school, by far. I don't know if you ever went to crazy parties like this.
They always do that in movies. Like high school parties was big elaborate things, like hundreds of people and music and like so much like light effects and all sorts. It's like a dance club situation in somebody's living room. It seems. And no, most of my parties I was just like group of friends just sitting around underage drinking.
My biggest problem with this movie was like, this core group of friends who are all keeping this pact. There's the jock, there's the charming all-American boy, there's the total nerd, Wally, with the glasses, there's their black friend, and then like 4 hot chicks. And it's like, these guys would never be friends in real life.
Yeah, that's a big issue.
And then they all like, obviously in order for the movie to have drama, they have to always keep fighting and arguing and having all this tension. And it's just, it's really hard to buy it that long that these are all really actually friends and that no one's going to propose, that they just call the cops or something.
Yeah.
And it was a long way to go for a senior prank to really assume that this kid's not going to call the cops. But I guess they were all thinking, if he calls the cops, then we'll tell him it was a joke. I mean, you have to see this one, Marshall, to really take in the...
I really might, now after talking about this, I might actually go home when we're done with this, go and actually watch this one just for myself. Just to see.
Well, in that case, I feel bad I spoiled the fact that it was all a senior prank. But
it's all right. I'll put myself in a different mindset.
What's funny is that I was talking to your mom about the movie this morning, and she goes, "Oh, make sure to keep watching though after the credits because there's a couple extra things." She must have been talking about your movie, was she?
Yeah, I guess she would have.
But that's also when the whole plot of my movie is explained after the credits. So your mom actually helped perpetuate this misconception that I should finish this movie real quick while Marshall sets up the microphones.
Oh man, that's
crazy. It's something.
That's awful.
Yeah.
So what other we celebrate the horribleness of these horror movies here at Horrible Horror. So other than just the bad kills, but what were there some other things that specifically just stood out as just pure awfulness?
Well, what they really try to do with this movie is try to have this angle that it's all through found footage, like it's a found footage horror movie. But the problem is that you're watching clearly like a cinematographer's lens. You're watching a movie that looks like a movie, but that's not supposed to be a handycam, but they're constantly doing the handycam. So really, like none of it is actually found footage. They just happen to be recording everything, but the view that you're watching as the viewer is clearly not any one of the characters' views. It's a cinematographer view.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
And this is really just in how they synopsize the movie online. They're like, it's a found footage horror movie, as if that's something revolutionary.
Yeah.
But they don't even commit to that concept. So the movie Unfriended that you haven't seen is true to the concept in that the entire movie takes place within a computer screen, one person's computer screen view. So there's Skypes and IMs and emails and Facebooks and all that stuff. Yeah, and I found that interesting.
Yeah, there's one watch called The Den, I believe, which is very. I don't know if the entire movie is like that, but it's probably about 80% of the movie is like
The Den
is like a Skype view or something. It's on a computer screen.
Yeah.
So I'm familiar with the concept. I have seen that.
I'll tell you another problem I have with this movie.
Please, tell me. Unload.
And the only I have a big problem with in retrospect is that the whole movie hinges on them accidentally killing this girl and then hiding the body, and then it cuts to graduation. Okay. And I assume that everyone knows that this girl disappeared or died and that it became a whole thing. Like, how does this guy never see this girl again? It must have been in the news or something. Yeah. But apparently it must not have been in the news because it was all a prank in the end. You see that this girl is alive. So the fact that this kid thought that they hit a body well enough that no one ever found it, and there was never a missing person, and no one ever mentioned this girl or anyone outside of this group ever even brought this girl up.
Yeah, it's like
is
the
preposterous.
parents like, oh my God, my daughter.
Yeah, nothing.
Nothing
You'd
happened.
think they would at least see something on the news, which I assumed that maybe they just didn't show that. You know, I bought that they really did kill this girl. I was suckered into it. But then at the end, when you realize it was all senior prank, you're like, well, then there's no way that, like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I see where you're going. I see what you're.
You know what I mean? Like if just that if you killed this girl, that there would be some sort of, in 2013 when this movie takes place, somebody would have talked about it. Somebody outside of the group would have asked about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's not even something that happened on screen. It's just something that didn't happen on screen. That now that I know what the whole thing was about, I feel a little cheated. I feel like they owe me 90 minutes, and they owe you 90 minutes,
Yes,
Marshall.
Yeah, they do.
Because you're gonna watch it. Just
I am going
eventually.
to. Yes, I am going to go watch this movie.
Yeah.
Did your party scene?
Yeah.
Did you have a live band in yours?
No, this was a DJ.
Oh, DJ.
DJ playing it.
Yeah.
You know.
I had a live band in mine.
How was it?
Oh, it's awful.
Really?
It was awful. It was
Playing
totally awful.
and just a whole bunch of white people dancing. You said?
Yeah. Oh, even better. Even better. The band scene or the music scene takes place at what I first thought was a skating rink. And the band is on this little stage in the center of the skating rink while everybody like.
Are they
skates
spinning?
around.
Is the band spinning?
No, it's not. It's not a rotating stage. But everybody's skating around them, or some people are just walking around dancing. But then I was like, hey, is this a skating rink, or they just set this up in the middle of like the high school gymnasium? And so you never really know. But it's like a concert. There's like, you know, lights rigged up in the ceiling, like flashing down, like you know, red, yellow, like, you know, it's a concert. There's like a light show going on behind these guys, and it's the worst. I mean, it's totally 80s. It's definitely 80s, but it's so bad. The band is actually called Felony, which was a real band in the 80s.
So this for them was a cameo. This was like a big break for them, I'm sure.
I think it's like a big, like this is like one of the
Felony.
first things they did. Yeah.
I'll look them up.
Thank you, because I actually
Where are
met
they
them.
now? Felony.
They don't exist. I actually, I think the lead singer actually committed suicide in like 92.
Oh, boy.
But they actually did some music for some other movies. Like they did a song that was featured in Friday the 13th, Part 6. And then the big musical number they do in this movie is called Gangster Rock. Or something similar to that. And it is awful. I wish I could play it for you right now just so you could hear it. Because it's so bad.
Gangsters of Rock, yeah. So they appeared
Rock.
in horror B movie Graduation Day playing their song Gangsters of Rock.
Yeah.
Wow. Soon after that, they signed with Big Manager, and the rest is history.
Yeah. But they are awful. It's so bad. And the song's really bad. And like a lot of times in some horror, many movies where you get like a concert or a band playing, you know, they'll start playing and, you know, they'll just set, okay, band's playing, we'll move on. You'll set the stage, we know you're playing. And you only get like maybe a little bit of the song. No, they play the entire song in this movie while cutting back and forth between Linnea Quigley's character getting killed in the woods and the roller rink / gymnasium with everybody just roller skating around doing nothing. And it's just so obnoxious, this song. Yeah, you can probably find it online. I'm sure there's a YouTube clip of it somewhere. It's called, what was it?
Gangsters of Rock.
Gangsters of Rock. I was called it
by
Gangsters
the
of
band
Rock.
Felony.
Yeah, it's awful. I might, if I can find a clip, I might put it on our Facebook page just so you guys can check it out. It's really bad.
Murder to Kill. It's a song to kill people to, I guess.
It'll make you kill
Makes
people.
you homicidal.
Yes, it definitely does. I mean, they're dressed like kind of like 1920s, like someone wearing like fedoras, like gangster, like 20s gangster.
Kind of reminds
style.
me of like
But they,
in Clueless, where you get to see the Mighty Mighty Bosstones play.
Yeah,
You remember?
that's right. They were in that one.
They, I mean, that was, they were that whole big dance ska party scene. Nobody killed each other in that movie.
No.
It was a great movie.
No, they're wearing like, they have eyeliner on and they're wearing like fedoras and like gangsters suits. It's awful. It's beautifully awful in the same way, if you can understand that.
Yeah. I mean, if it was a great movie, it probably wouldn't be one on this podcast. It wouldn't be one we're talking about.
If it was a great movie, it would not be on this podcast.
So thank goodness it sucks.
Yes. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I really worth covering. I mean, there's a lot. This movie, I'm sure yours is probably similar, but the movie.
I mean, your notes are almost the script to the movie you watched, I think.
Yeah, I probably have a good 15 pages of notes on this movie on how awful things are. It makes sense, but I sense it can't really. It won't make sense to do them right now since you didn't see the movie. But some of the other things are just worth mentioning. I guess I'll get to kind of when we start wrapping up and get to odds and ends and some of the trivia things I learned about this movie. I guess I'll say one thing now. Linnea Quigley's character, she's actually only in the movie because the original actress just they fired her. They didn't like her, so they fired her.
And the original one is not in the movie at all?
Yeah.
Or she is?
No, the original girl is not. They pretty much cut her out of the movie.
Cut her out, replaced her with
Linnea Quigley. But the problem was, near the end, at the final climactic scene where Anne is fighting Kevin underneath the bleachers, the decapitated head comes back. But it's not Linnea Quigley's head. It's the head of the original girl.
So that's the part they'd already shot?
They
already spent a lot of money on this prosthetic head?
It's probably both. But
and they were like, no one's going to notice.
Yeah, but it's definitely not her head.
Cut to 34 years later.
Yeah.
Marshall Hampton notices.
I found it out.
He notices. You can't fool him.
So, let's just, we've kind of covered what we can. So let's just move into our, odds and ends of the movies.
Yes.
Not only did they watch these films, they researched them too. Ugh, what is wrong with these guys?
So, what we do, and maybe if you can, I don't know if you can dig up yours, but we maybe compare notes here. First thing we do is we look up the ratings for the movies, not like RPGs or anything, but what the other sites, what people rate this movie. Now, first we start with IMDb. And IMDb gave my Graduation Day 4.3 out of 10, which...
could be worse.
It could be a lot worse. And I've seen some of the movies we've done are way worse. So this isn't as bad as some of the other movies we've done. So I have nothing to really say. That's fine. Whatever. It's bad, but it's not that bad. What kind of surprised me is Rotten Tomatoes gave it 50%, which I thought was kind of high for, and that's kind of like their critics more, score, but an 18% audience score. That one I figured that's
quite a discrepancy.
That's about right. And then Amazon, basically a 3.2, so 3 stars out of 5, so average. Again, I guess a little high, but nothing. It's nothing out of the ordinary. So,
well, it's interesting over here. So when you IMDb Graduation Day that I watched, the 2015, it says not yet released. Voting begins after release.
That's really weird.
So, but when you go to Amazon, it's got 2.5 out of 5 stars.
2.5. So according to Amazon, mine's better.
It's got only 4 reviews. I mean, this movie must be super new.
Apparently, then.
It's one review says breaks rules of found footage. Which I did mention there. The only good part of this movie was the surprise ending. This is true. Just another tired, terrible knockoff of the same old plot. Save your money and time. 1 star. And then someone else said 5 stars. These kids did an amazing job. I think that person believes that these kids actually shot this movie and that it's a documentary. That woman, I think, is confused. And then if I look
that would be awesome. If she really thought that would be amazing.
Yeah. And then on Rotten Tomatoes, no score yet because it's so new.
Yeah, we had one other one where there was no score yet.
Interesting.
Another thing we do is plot keywords. These are words people like to type into IMDb or some movie search engine to find movies that feature these things, which some of them are really weird. Like, why would you want to search for that? There were a lot, but I just wrote down 4 for this one, and it was sweatsuit, roller skating, stopwatch, and rapier were the more interesting of the plot keywords for Graduation Day 1981. I skipped out, killer, slasher, blood, blah, blah, blah. Those are the basic ones. We want to go into...
My keywords?
We won't get into it.
Well, I guess that, key would be found footage or
I would imagine.
Voyeur film or bad movie.
Bad movie. Definitely be
yeah. But lots of it just gets weird. Your hero, you kind of like him at the beginning, and then he just kind of loses his mind at a unrealistic pace, and that's why you see at the end where obviously they have to pay off that he
Yeah.
kills
So what
himself.
is like you just mentioned what unrealistic? So when let's cover your timeline here. What because mine's a little wacky too.
I think it's about a 9-month timeline because the movie starts with you seeing him about to shoot himself in the head.
Okay.
And then black screen
That's right,
9
you did
months
say 9
earlier.
months earlier.
And then it's happier times. And then so basically it all happens within 9 months. But it's all about him just losing it over the guilt of him thinking he killed this girl.
So the prank itself then was set up with him jumping off the 9 months earlier. So the whole prank was to get him to think he killed him. Well, was the payoff of that,
And then everyone was in on it, and they were just going to terrorize him. It's the worst prank. It's
it
pretty
was
horrible.
the graduation. Here's my question. Since it's graduation, they're talking about graduation here. Was the night they all jumped off the cliff? Was that the graduation part?
That
Or
was not. That
or
was,
the
I
prank was the
think-
night he basically shoots himself. It was graduation.
That was the final review of the final reveal. Actually, their actual graduation was about midway through this movie. So I think about 4 months between the two things. This big party was just kind of like a second semester senior. Let's get it's the home stretch. Let's party, and then graduation happens, and then all this fallout after that when everyone gradually gets picked off.
Okay.
He finally offs himself. Pretty horrible prank. Pretty cruel, horrible friends. Yeah, I can't believe I bought into it. But that's the whole. It was all to manipulate my emotions. I might be the only person who's ever seen this movie. Me and Susan, who thinks it's a
Who thinks it's
documentary.
real.
Yeah. Susan.
I want to meet her. I would love to meet that person. Talk to her about that.
Susan
Get her point of view.
Harini.
Yeah, so like I said, ours. There's really no real timeline on art in the one I watched. It's weird because it's supposed to take place on graduation day, but the opening track scene where the girl dies that sets off the whole chain of events. You never really know when that is.
Why would they be running a track meet on graduate? That makes no sense.
Yeah, that
season's clearly over.
Season should be over. So at the end of the movie, they do say the coach finally does get fired. They say, "Oh, you've been fired for," everybody's blaming him for this girl's dying. Oh, he worked the kids too hard, so they fired. But if you're gonna fire him for somebody's death, again, what do you do that like immediately? So again, how much time has passed between when the girl dies and when the rest of this movie takes place? It's never really known. And then it's the longest graduation day ever. There, like 6 people die. Like this
Wait, is that
one
supposed
day.
to be one day? Oh,
That's the thing. You never know. There is a night scene where the band is playing and the roller skating. There's night, and then the next morning. So there's that period, but the timeline of this makes no sense. Is not clear at all.
interesting.
So start wrapping up some of the trivia things. Some of the other mess ups I found is I wish we would have seen this, but at the opening scene of the opening track meet where Laura dies there's a lot of spice and it's almost seizure inducing like editing they do here. But her jersey number, there's no continuity. Her jersey number constantly changes between shots. It goes from 40 and 45.
No way.
Yeah, they can't even keep the same jersey on this girl. The same girl. She's running down the same track, but it's kind of 40, 45, 40, 45. So there's no continuity whatsoever.
It'd be great if there was actually a hidden meaning to that. Like if it wasn't just clumsiness, like maybe if that was, like a little Easter egg that, pieced it together, made reference to something. But,
but
no,
no,
probably
it's
just
just
some
bad
stupid
filmmaking,
mistake.
bad continuity.
Wardrobe blew it.
Yeah,
I bet she was
definitely
wearing the 40 jersey and then she spilled coffee on it at craft service. And they're like, well, we have a 45 for the pickup shots.
Yeah,
no one will
that's
notice.
exactly what
but
it
then 34 years later, Marshall Hampton notices.
Yes. That's kind of a big one. Some of these aren't as... The whole movie was shot in 3 weeks. I did learn that. And unfortunately, we know we do the budget game, but we're kind of skip over that. The budget for this movie was $250,000.
I wonder, wow. And that's an 81, which,
That's an 81.
That's something. How do I find out the budget for mine?
Well,
Graduation day
look
2015
up,
budget.
IMDb might have it. Might have the budget if you
Yeah, IMDb, let's see.
if you scan down. It might have some of the information there.
Yeah, don't seem to find it. But I'm going to guess it was a modest budget for this film. I'm going to guess. There's no crazy production number. They try to keep it very, very simple, obviously, because they want to have that found footage aspect. But, it says the movie was also known as Class of 2013 at one point. Amazing. Interesting.
Yeah, a lot of these movies go through different times. That's a big thing I've noticed is even this one had different titles and like 7 different taglines at one point.
Well, I could see the reason why they did do that is probably because if the movie's not coming out till 2015, no one in 2015 wants to see the movie called Class of 2013.
That's very true.
That just feels like,
Yeah,
why would I
that
watch this? Not topical. So probably smart. Very smart.
All right, let's see. Before I go into the 5-star reviews, which is one of the things I kind of wrap up with, and I have a few of them, just for our segment's sake and just to keep with the tradition of our show, we're going to go into favorite kill.
There can be only one. Favorite kill.
So you've always said like most of your kills, even though they turn out to be fake at the end, when you were watching them, if you had to pick, what was the one what was your favorite kill?
Well, I'll say that finally, obviously, at the end, you see him pull the trigger on himself right after all of his friends jump out and say surprise. That, I'm going to say, was the only real kill and was my favorite kill, in that the bittersweet tragedy of it, of his friends thinking they were pulling off a joke that he would be pleased with, and then having to all watch him commit suicide because of their prank. Had a nice justice served to it, you know.
Okay.
So and it was just a boring, gun to the head. But because excuse me, because it was the only real one, it's going to have to be my favorite. But it was also just satisfying that if someone's going to die because of the horribleness of a prank, at least all those people were there to see it and now be haunted with it for the rest of their lives.
Oh, that's a good point.
It's the kill that keeps on killing.
It's like herpes.
Exactly.
It's the herpes of kills. All right, my favorite kill for my 1981 graduation day, it was a toss-up between football sword and the the pole vaulter being impaled on the spikes. It's hard to choose between those two. Those are both kind of the most creative kills of the movie, but I think
I love the football one. Just hearing you describe it, it sounds awesome. I can visualize it.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
The pole vaulter on the pad, I can see that. But if you say that the spikes were sticking up above the pad, not as great. But I would love seeing, because you fall into a pad pretty hard when you're pole vaulting.
Yeah.
I can imagine a bunch of spikes invisibly hidden in there. That'd be a good kill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. And I don't think the filmmakers thought about that that hard. But I can't even decide. You know what? I'm going to go with the draw. I can't decide today. So for me, it's going with the football sword and the pole vault impalement. Those two are both the best kills of the movie.
I wish my movie had those kinds of kills.
Yeah.
The probably the best kill in my movie.
you.
Best kill in my movie was my hopes and dreams. Killed my happiness and my expectations. It killed my buzz. It killed my vibe. Killed my vibe.
Sorry that happened to you. That's sad.
Bitch, don't kill my vibe.
Okay. Getting ready to close up. We're going to 5-star reviews.
These special movies have a place in these special people's hearts. 5-star reviews.
These are a few reviews, obviously, don't need to say much, 5 stars, of Graduation Day 1981. Now, normally I would read some more of these, but just for the sake of time, I'm going to skip a few of them. Just came out, there was one by, this one I had that said, the top line said, I'm going to keep this short and sweet, and then proceed to write like 3 paragraphs worth of review for a movie. So you didn't keep it short and sweet.
I'm going to keep this short and sweet.
All right.
Page 1.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
All right. From Happy Shopping, Christopher George is a good actor, and he's a good detective in this movie. Catch! This killer is loose, ... 5 stars. First of all, that makes no sense. Christopher George isn't a detective in the movie. He's a high school track coach. And yeah, anyway, it just makes no sense. Alan Logan writes, pure slasher gold. This isn't some remake or some new age movie trying to be an old school slasher. This is an old school slasher from 1981, no less. This is one of the best of an era. We have Linnea Quigley showing her breasts not once but twice.
Oh, you didn't mention
weed,
that.
And looking fine. Major points there.
Wow.
Love the little town and the school in this movie. The set locations are awesome and really remind me of my old school. I really thought it was someone else. You know what that means. This is a good whodunit story. 5 stars.
Wow.
Yeah, this makes no sense. And I think the locations since we need to go into were awful because it's a high school, but you never see classrooms. You see a principal's
Because
office.
you have to fill that classroom with a lot of extras, and that costs money.
But they did a ton of extra skating in a rink, which I did learn. They paid every skating extra $5. So they actually got paid $5. And then finally, I'd say the two last ones are Jesse DeForest wrote one of the best whodunit slashers ever, 5 stars. And Matt M. Clark simply puts in one word, awesome, 5 stars.
Wow. Well, of my movie, there are literally only 4 reviews online. And they're kind of well said. Volky Man here says, well, off to a somewhat promising start with students filming their senior year, more like 3 hours of one night in their life where something goes horribly wrong. Not the worst you'll see, but a lot of annoying banter, and one of those found footage movies that breaks the genre's own rules. Once I hear music used as a score in a found footage film, I'm done. This goes as far as to have music as a score and editing for a music video effect. Either the guy holding the camera is extremely talented with in-camera editing, or the found footage has been altered. You have to be a serious found footage fan to give this one a try, and even then, you'll likely be unhappy with the final product. I guarantee. If you're a found footage fan, you have more problems than just this movie, I'm sure. And then, another person says, just a horrible, terrible knockoff of the same old plot. It's literally a lazy remake of the we accidentally or purposely killed our friend and hid the body, and now it's back to get us story. Specifically, it's poorly acted, 30 minutes of meeting the characters and almost no blood, gore, scares, or even jump scares. If you like the description of the plot, check out Complicity. Anything but this. Interesting.
Anything but this.
And then my favorite review is 5 stars. These kids did an amazing job, by the woman who thinks it's a doc. So do I get to give it stars? I'm gonna give it 1.5.
1.5. Well, that's a good segue into basically our last thing we do before we wrap up here is recommendation. Would you recommend somebody watch your 2015 version of Graduation Day?
I would not. I would not recommend it. If you're going to be on a podcast where your friend of 25 years asks you to watch this movie, then I would recommend it. I would do it. If he says watch Graduation Day, I'm going to do it. I watched this for Marshall, and I'm glad I did, but I would not watch it again. And if you didn't tell me to watch this movie, I would not watch it, and I wouldn't tell anybody to watch it unless they were, a fan of bad found footage movies.
Okay. As for my 1981 Graduation Day, I'm going to say pass on this one. It's not that it's so bad it's good, which is what I love. I love those type of movies here. That's what we celebrate here on this podcast. But it's not that good either. It's just kind of there. Yes, there's a few boobs in a movie, but you can get boobs in tons of other movies, and they're not that good of boobs either. So it's just there. It's not.
They're
special.
80s boobs, though.
They are 80s boobs.
Something different about the boobs, then, I gotta say.
So, yeah, you can pass it. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just there. So yeah, pass on it, and we'll, find something else. There's a lot to choose from. So, before I sign off for tonight, Justin, I do want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to do this with me.
My pleasure.
Totally appreciate
my pleasure. Thank you. And I kind of love that we had the little mix-up. I think it just goes to show it's a subtle nod to the fact that these days people can't even come up with an original movie title. The fact that you tell me to watch a movie that I've never even heard of, and there are 2 of the same name. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure watching a horror movie. I don't normally watch horror movies. My fiance Jill loves them. I will watch them with her, but this was a fun treat watching a horror movie alone. Even though it was bad, I did enjoy just
next time you guys are in town, maybe we can get Jill on the show sometime.
She'll talk your ear off, buddy.
That's what I love.
It'll be like your 4-hour, your first 4.5-hour episode. But it was a pleasure. Thank you.
Is there anything what do you got coming up? A Slide of Mouth?
Yeah. So my debut Comedy Magic special was on Comedy Central earlier this year. It's called Sleight of Mouth with Justin Willman. You can watch it on my website. It's on YouTube. You can watch it commercial free at justinwillman.com. My Twitter's Justin_Willman. Instagram, Justin Willman, no underscore. Facebook, you can find me and keep in touch with the tour. I'm always touring the nation, comedy clubs and stuff. So
coast to coast.
Come see me do magic in person, and free poster if you mentioned that you as well watched the 2015 Graduation Day.
Awesome. Well,
and a big free
swag.
poster
Get
to
swag.
Susan, who thought it was a documentary. If she comes to a show, I guarantee if she comes to see me, she's probably going to think that I'm a witch, because apparently she takes things at face value.
With your beautiful warlock.
She's going to think I'm a wizard. Yeah.
All right. So, yes. So, follow Horrible Horror Follow us on Facebook, our website, horriblehorrorpodcast.com. Follow us on Twitter at So Bad It's Scary. You can also listen to us on Podbean and download, subscribe, check us on the almighty iTunes. It is free, people. That's FREE, totally free. Give us check us out, rate us 5 stars, and follow us along. We'd love to have you. I guess that's it for this week. I'm Marshall Hampton.
I'm Justin Willman.
Thank you for checking us out. We'll be back in a week.